This week, on our main topic here on Mastering Dungeons, we are going to take a look at an RPG other than D&D. Uh,
and and it's not like this. I'm
it's
holding up
not
the Alien
it's
RPG.
not the Alien Evolved RPG. It's not Draw Steel. It's not Daggerheart. It's not Shadow Dark. It's Brindlewood Bay. You've heard me probably mention this game if you've listened to the show long enough. Uh, it is a dark and cozy mystery game by Jason Cordova. Brindlewood Bay is a role playing game about a group of elderly women, members of the local Murder Mavens Mystery Book Club, who find themselves solving actual murder mysteries in their quaint New England town. They become aware of a dark occult conspiracy connecting the murders and will eventually have to defeat that dark conspiracy to save their community.
Right.
Uh, yeah, this game came to my attention uh, when I was talking with some indie game designers and some other folks in the industry who like all different sorts of games. And
Mhm.
Jason Cordova has a pretty good reputation as an indie game designer, across the years.
Yeah.
Uh, and so this system, a lot of the games he works on, use the Powered by the Apocalypse engine, sometimes lightly modified, sometimes heavily modified. And this game system has also been updated to make games such as Nephews in Peril or The Between. Uh, but in general, this game is a cross between 1970s, 80s, and 90s TV shows, sort of murder mystery detective, like Murder She Wrote being the foremost there, and the cosmic horror of the Cthulhu mythos a la H.P. Lovecraft and others. Uh, it does use the Powered by the Apocalypse engine to create moves, and it is very much a play to find out what happens game. And you'll hear that said a lot about indie games. Oh, this is a game where you play to find out what happens. This game can really live up to that claim, as we will talk about when we talk about the game in more detail.
It's fun. So I've not played this. You've played it. I've read it. And I've tried to play this kind of game in the past, but always something has happened. And like I tried to go to Gamehole Con and play Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast. I've wanted to play Wander Home, which a lot of folks think of as sort of being the maybe flagship in this sort of cozy RPG area. But I've never done it. And reading this, I found it fascinating how the game is set together, the kinds of concepts of what you're trying to do, the way it balances coziness and dark conspiracy are really quite neat. And I could see this being just an absolute blast at conventions. And yet, as we'll see, the intent of it is while it supports some one shots, the intent is really campaigns where things evolve over time. And I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, I've played it once as a one shot, a 2 hour one shot at a convention with strangers. Very great keeper, which is what they call the game master. Uh, and but I can definitely see a one shot being much different than a
Mhm.
full campaign with this game. Uh, so let's continue. The players will play elderly widows, members of the Murder Mavens Mystery Book Club. They come together frequently to discuss the books that they're reading, but they also often end up solving real mysteries that take place in fictional Brindlewood Bay, Massachusetts. And there you can get right back to the Murder She Wrote, sort of
Yeah.
New England seaside town, where you get a lot of strange people, a lot of strangers coming to town for vacations or for business. And so this game, as Teos said, it has a tone that goes back and forth between very cozy
Hmm.
and very dark. It also goes from the external uh, drama of a mystery
Mm.
with the internal lives of the Mavens.
Yeah.
And so some of it is that internal life of the characters. Some is solving the mysteries they find themselves in, and then some is uncovering this larger cosmic horror plot.
Something I found interesting, right? This game is, I think, 40 pages long, the version that I have. And
Mhm.
so it's not like a big,
Yeah.
complex. This is not the 256-page book, but in that space, it accomplishes a lot. And part of the way it does that is it has very clever ways of doing things like the way a normal RPG will do gear. The way this does it is in a way that is poignant, that does cause you to think
Mhm.
about your character and who you are. Similarly, the way the game breaks up the dark things with the things that you do, both to solve mysteries but also to take a break from it, is
Mhm.
also something that leans forward into, obviously now you should tell us what your character is up to, what kind of cozy thing they're doing. So it's really got a nice, clever design to it. Really good way of establishing those things that the game is telling you it cares about and that the players should care about are brought in. This almost goes to our listener question that we had at the beginning of our news segment, of how do you change up the dynamics? Well, this is sort of an example to that, right?
I'm just going to continue with
Yeah.
talking about
Yep.
the gameplay basics. The game master is called the keeper. The characters have 5 abilities that range between +3 and -3. Those are vitality, composure, reason, presence, and sensitivity. Um, to think of it in D&D terms, vitality is basically any physical check you need to make.
Hmm.
So it's constitution, strength, and dexterity all put together because you're not going to do a lot of physical things, hopefully, in this game. Uh, Composure is essentially wisdom, how well you can keep your cool, how well you can maintain equilibrium. Reason is more like intelligence, and then presence is more like charisma, whereas sensitivity governs the all interaction with the occult or with supernatural forces. And like many Powered by the Apocalypse games, moves are to roll 2d6, you add your modifier, and instead of looking at a number that you need to beat, it's just 7+ is a hit and 6- is a miss. Sometimes hits are divided into other categories. So you might get 7 to 9 being a success with a consequence, 10 or 11 being a straight up success, and then 12 being something extra, depending on the move. Um, the game does have a concept of advantage and disadvantage, but what you do then is if you have advantage, you roll 3d6, take the highest 2 dice. If you have disadvantage, you roll 3d6 and take the lowest 2 dice. Uh, and along the way, players can do something called putting on a crown. And this allows you to bump the result up by one category. So a miss would become a 7 to 9, a 7 to 9 will become a 10 or 11, etc.
I found this super fascinating, especially their example, because you think like, oh, okay, how can I use this? And they directly tell you the keeper can therefore go hard at the characters because even a death can be undone. And the example is, you face off against the villain and you roll a miss, and the DM describes how your elderly woman is chucked over a cliff. And then you
Right.
say, "Nope, I'm putting on a crown." And they actually say like this is great because it's almost like in classic TV shows where they show you this scene and you're like, "What? How can that be?" And then they're like, "No, it was the character imagining what would happen if they didn't
Yeah.
duck in time or if they didn't, and you are supposed to describe sort of how it is that you turn this around when you put on a crown, right? Really neat concept, I think, and very fitting of what it's trying to do, which is also this cinematic 70s to 90s nostalgia, right? TV show. We'll see more of that later in the design, but I thought that was really interesting, and I like that the rule book is very clear about you can undo death, and because of that, the keeper can actually push death because they know this will happen and it'll be a cool experience. Oh, great.
Yeah. And that goes back to that cozy versus dark theme
Yeah.
perfectly, right? This is the dark thing that is waiting for you. This is the way that you got out of it. And it really does go back to that 70s, 80s, and
Mhm.
even 90s feel of we can't show you the violence, right? We can't show you the harm. We can't do it, but we will leave it to your imagination or
Mm-hmm.
hint at it so you know it's
Mm-hmm.
always there. And this sorts of goes along in a role-playing game way of
Yeah.
getting that same sort of dichotomy.
And I love this because in a lot of games where we're being asked to really tell everybody at the table about our character, and we're continually defining that and redefining that, adding to it, an abrupt end is a real letdown. Like it's fine in
Mm,
Alien, right? But it
yeah.
feels weird when it happens in a game like this that oh my elderly woman just got mauled or thrown off a cliff feels really bad. And so being able to do this is both sensible, right? It makes sense, but it then has its place and furthers thing and even helps you have more of what you wanted out of the experience.
Mhm. And then your gear is defined by you detailing your quote cozy little place and everything that's in it. So items that you have in your home or where you live. And then you can take these out with you on adventures. And the game can mess around with your cozy little place and your items by taking items away from you if bad things happen.
I love it.
To sort of let the darkness creep into the cozy little place.
Yeah, and I love that because again, like the more that you play, and you define more about your place because you're going to come back and have downtime there and things like that. And so, you describe your favorite tea kettle or whatever it is, the painting that means something to you. And I forget whether we mentioned this, but one of the things about all these elderly women is their partners have passed away. So you're you
Right.
know you're on your own, but you could have these pieces of history there that help define you in your little place. And yeah, if the villain takes away, your portrait or whatever, like that could be your wedding ring, right? Whatever, that could be a really important piece that you react to and makes the game poignant. It's neat.
Yeah. And in the designer notes in the edition that I have, Jason talks about, using
Mm,
elderly women as the characters in this for a lot of reasons. And people have asked him, well, can we play with, non-elderly widows? And he says in the note something like, I'm conflicted about that.
mm,
Sure, you can do whatever you want, but part of the power of this story is not making these elderly women caricatures,
mhm.
but making them real people with real
Yeah.
pasts and real desires and real emotions and connecting them to the cozy uh vibe of their lives and their
Hmm.
history and their backgrounds against this threat that they are going to have to take on, not as superheroes,
Right.
not as magic wielding
Hmm.
right heroes, but just as people.
Yeah.
So that's I thought
Yeah.
that was
No, it's
cool.
it's and that's what's great about it, right? I love the contrast between, this is my cozy spot to have tea and I will stand up to this because it's not right.
Mhm.
Fantastic. That's great.
Yep. So if it is a powered by the apocalypse sort of game, it will have moves.
Hmm.
And there are three categories of moves in Brindlewood Bay. Your basic moves, which the game tells you covers about 75% of the moves that are used. The Maven moves, which cover about 20%, and then custom moves, which take up about 5%. So, what are the basic moves? Well, there are a few of them. One is called the day move. And so, whenever you do something or face something, if you do something risky or face something you fear, you name what you are afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve, and then you roll the dice with the appropriate ability. And during the day, you are at less risk than you might be because during the day, it's a more cozy game. So you can still fail, but there are ways to sort of mitigate the failures that you get.
Hmm.
So the day move, when the story's taking place during the day, roll the dice. That's how you
Hmm.
figure that out. The night move is like the day move, but the keeper tells you how it is worse than you fear. So Outcomes are slightly more perilous, and you have a little less control as the player of what happens. The keeper gets a little more power to move that darkness in around you.
Very cool.
Do you want to talk about the meddling move, Teos?
Yeah, I love the meddling move. So this is your key move to search for a clue, conduct research, or gather information, depending how you're or describing how you're doing so and rolling with the appropriate ability. And the night move and the day move have that neat piece that you, the player, is saying, and here's what I'm afraid will go wrong, right? And so
Mhm.
you can see this collaborative pieces there in these moves, right? You describe what you're doing, what you're looking for, and on a hit you find a clue, and the keeper will tell you what that clue is. So it's this collaborative piece. The keeper has a list of clues for the scenario, and I think 20 clues, and so you will describe what you're looking for. They'll find the appropriate one and tell you what it is. And then the cozy move is also awesome. This is when you have an intimate moment with another maven while one of you is engaged in your cozy activity. Choose two from below if it's your cozy activity. Otherwise, you choose one, and you get to define what your cozy activity is up front during character creation. So you may ask the other player a question about their maven, which they must answer truthfully and completely. The other maven agrees on a particular course of action or gives them a condition if they refuse. You can clear an appropriate condition, and you can choose that one twice if you have two conditions you want to get rid of. And if it's your cozy activity, you additionally have the option of stumbling on a clue relevant to an active mystery. And you tell the keeper what it is. The clue cannot conclusively solve the mystery by itself.
Mhm. You also have a move called Gold Crown Mysteries move. So, as a murder maven in this book club, your favorite series of books are the Gold Crown Mysteries, that in which the detective is named Amanda Delacourt. So, once per game, you can take this Gold Crown Mysteries move by saying, "Well, this reminds me of something that happened to Amanda Delacourt." And then you work with the other players to describe how something that's happening in their situation reminds the Mavens of an event from one of those books. So the player must describe the book, what happened in the book, and how Amanda overcame the situation. They can then take an automatic 12 plus on a single relevant roll or state a fact about the current situation that the keeper must incorporate into the game.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, right? It's that very purposeful design that, okay, I want to give you a get out of jail free type of approach to just when you
Mm-hmm.
really need to move things forward, which is very important in mysteries. And you can do it by adding to the fiction of this fake series of books you all love with this fake author, and I love that. It's really
Yeah.
great. I also love how this intersects with various of the Maven moves, where like if you're inspired by Nancy Drew, you actually know information about Amanda Delacourt, which I think is fantastic. Sort of
Yeah.
reflecting the fact that Nancy Drew isn't written by a single author, and just great.
Yeah. There's an occult move. So when you engage in an activity related to the supernatural or occult for the first time, you imagine what your actions would look like as a move.
Mm.
And then you say what triggers the move and you roll with sensitivity. If you hit, it works. And then you work with the keeper to write the move. It is now a move that all the Mavens can use for the rest of the game, and your roll stands. If you get a 7 to 9 or a miss, you have to mark something called Crown of the Void, which means that you can't then use that, and that becomes a little detrimental down the line. So this is like the, oh no, I now realize we're in deeper than we had anticipated. So this is how we're going to deal with that as we go through our campaign.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's neat because you could come up with different things. Is it, psionic? Is it some sort of sigil you inscribe on a wall? You get to come up with that. And now it's a thing that you all have unlocked. That's a fun way to do it, right? And it changes the direction of the game based on what kind of thing you would choose. You just, summon a little imp, it could be any number of things.
Yep. And the last of these moves is called Theorize. So when you have an open, freewheeling discussion about the solution to a mystery based on the clues you have uncovered, and you reach a consensus, you roll the dice and add the number of clues found, not including the void clues, which are for the larger cosmic
Hmm.
mystery. And then you subtract from the roll the mystery's complexity. So at the beginning of an adventure, at the beginning of a mystery session, the mystery will have a complexity number. So that is how complex the mystery is that you're trying to solve. So that's a number, usually between 6 and 8.
Hmm.
But as you go, you can gather clues, and you can gather up to 20 clues generally. So you roll the dice, you add your number of clues, you subtract the complexity, and that will give you a number somewhere on that 2 to 12 scale. So if you roll a 10 plus, you've come up with the correct solution. Then the keeper will present an opportunity to take down the culprit or otherwise save the day. On a 7 to 9, the solution is correct, but the keeper will either add an unwelcome complication to the solution or present a complicated or dangerous opportunity to take down the culprit. On a 6 minus, the solution is completely incorrect and the keeper will react in some way. And on a 12 plus, a person involved in the dark conspiracy of Brindlewood Bay also reveals themselves to the Mavens. All right. What this means, if you're a little lost at this point, is when you sit down as the keeper to run a mystery, there is no solution.
Right. Right.
Right. It's not like there is a solution that the characters find. The characters find clues. When they get to a point where they think they are ready and have enough clues and have played enough of the game, they can try to theorize. And you basically sit and have a discussion about how all of these clues fit together, who it points to, what their
Hmm.
motive is, where their opportunity was, right? All of these things. So the clue might just be a date book with 4 dates circled. You then, as the players, have to decide how that calendar with 4 dates circled works within this mystery, and you come up with how it's connected. Well, the dates circled were the 4 times that this other character had doctor's appointments.
Right.
So therefore, this person whose calendar it is, we're saying, was circling it because they knew that those were the opportunities that the person left their home to go to their doctor's appointment. And you're just making all of this up,
Yeah.
but you're doing it as a team storytelling.
Yeah. The role playing game Chew has this as well, where you're solving a food related mystery, and it can. It's not like you're exactly just completely making it up. It's more that you have all these different aspects of the
Right.
game that you've visited. The restaurant where something happened and the scene of the crime, and so there are these various clues, and naturally patterns will emerge, right? And so it's not like you're
Mhm.
just making it out of nowhere. You'll see these
Right.
circled dates or whatever, and you'll think, well, that could be that da da da. So at some point when you feel like there's enough here that you think what you're going on, you go with it. And at least in the game Chew, it doesn't have to be right.
Yeah.
But that leads you to a final scene, and the DM understands this is possible, so
Mhm.
facilitate that based on the slight differences of how they came up with it, right?
Right.
It's a really neat way to do it. It sounds harder than I think it is. If you've played through this, this actually goes pretty smoothly when you
Yeah.
are doing it, and it doesn't necessarily, like, you could run this for a group and they don't think, oh, the DM just gave us to us. It feels like you
Mhm.
came up with the right solution. But it also
Yeah.
means that if it's, say, near the end of the slot at a convention, or you've got to go home, you can also press this a bit and say, okay, it's time for us to wrap this up. If you do understand
Right.
the fiction of it, you could also use it as a tool to just move forward to the next fun stage.
Yep. And there's a reason then to use as many clues as you possibly can in your solution, because you might find 15 clues,
Hmm.
but if you only use 5 clues in your solution, you only add 5 to the
Yeah.
roll.
Okay.
So you want to bring in as many clues as you can as you have this theorize discussion move to get that extra added bonus. So,
Love it.
oh, so what was it with the red string tied around the fishing rod? Well, that, and so you
Yeah.
keep adding to it and adding to it, and as long as it makes sense, you get that extra bonus to your final theorize roll.
Yeah. I love the Maven moves that are here. We get a reference sheet that is, I think, 2 pages. One is additional moves with fun names from classic TV shows from the 70s to 90s. And it's literally like character names, right? It's Frank Columbo, Dale Cooper, Angus MacGyver, Jim Rockford, Fox Mulder, etc. And as example of it for MacGyver, it reads, when you improvise in a situation using whatever is at hand, ask the other players and keeper to name 3 objects you find in this environment. So long as you give a plausible explanation for how these 3 objects together are helpful in the current situation, you get an automatic 12 plus on a single associated die roll. This move can be used once per mystery. And this is a great capture of, if you've watched the TV show MacGyver, you know that he takes, a chocolate bar and wraps a thing around it and uses it to cancel the acid and the bomb and, all this kind of thing. I think in the book they give in the rule book they give this example of if you're using MacGyver, it can't be that you find the keys to open the door, right? It's
Right.
got to be you find this thing and putting them together, you were able to force the door open. You want that MacGyvering of it, and so you want to lean into element of what this move means.
Yeah. And in my book, they had these 70s through 90s uh, detectives. Then they also had a long list of others as well from television, from
Hmm.
books. You
Nancy
have the
Drew.
Sherlock Holmes move. You have the
Hmm.
Cadfall from Cadfall Mysteries move. The Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, right? All of these, and you can choose one that will be your character's specialty during these
Right.
adventures.
Yeah. And there's some fun rules like you can't have both Dale Cooper and Fox Mulder, right? If one
Right.
person chooses one of them, then well, you need a different one. I love that there can only be so much of the
Occult.
strange occult kind of
Yeah.
angle. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to it, right? There's
Hmm.
naming your character, there's describing your character. Uh, but let's jump onto the game master side. Um, as the game master, we are told that there are 3 ways that this game is different from other games where mysteries are solved. First, the clues are not located in specific places and in fact can be found wherever. Like I said, if you're in the bookstore and you find the calendar, it's going to be different than if you're in the restaurant and find the calendar. Uh, you don't have any notion of who the killer is until the Maven successfully do their theorize move. And the murder mysteries aren't the real mystery. There's a layer between them, a dark conspiracy that will develop and track through multiple play sessions. Uh, so an adventure will present an establishing question to one PC so as to personalize this particular adventure to them. So this is Esther's adventure, right?
Hmm.
Everyone else gets to participate, but this one is going to speak specifically to Esther. Uh,
Very TV.
suspects,
I
yeah,
love it.
exactly. Suspects, adventures will typically have 7 to 8 suspects for a 6 to 7 complexity adventure, or 9 to 12 for a complexity 8 adventure. GMs will paint the scene. They will be given several scenes, and the players get to answer questions about the scene to help them establish it. When I see the word establish, I go right to fiasco.
Yeah.
Fiasco, that's one of the
Yeah.
things you can do is find out or establish.
Hmm.
So, it's that sort of role playing and creating theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to take over here, Teos?
Sure. So we have clues. The mystery sheet will have at least 20 clues, and these can be found anywhere with the meddling moves. You also have void clues, usually 6 or more clues that are not for that specific mystery, who killed the old man in the tavern, but for the deeper, dark source of all mysteries, that there is this conspiracy of the midwives of the fragrant void. And that common enemy is what's causing all of this. And then you get fiction of what they're up to with the children of Persephone and all these kinds of things. It's very interesting. But those you want a few of those clues so they start feeling the concept of this larger thing that's going on beneath everything else.
Mhm. We have a contrast then between the cozy elements, which we're told to provide often, and the nighttime, where the danger and the stakes can become more real.
Mhm.
So the keeper reactions are You will frequently be asked to define and narrate complications resulting from a die roll, or otherwise react to a situation. Generally speaking, a good reaction is one that complicates a Maven's life in an interesting way and follows logically from the established fiction. We're also given a list that we can use of other reactions, such as separate the Mavens, kill a suspect, inflict a condition, put a Maven in danger, or show a Maven being killed, but then the players can undo that death.
Yeah. And I love the cut to commercial, which is a reaction you can take as keeper meant to call back to this being a TV show, because the whole idea is this is a TV show that you're playing. When a Maven is doing something dramatic and about to make a roll, you can say, and now we cut to commercial. And you give the player a prompt for something advertised to elderly people, such as furniture, life alert, sweepstakes. It's got a bunch of others. And the player narrates that commercial. Then they get an outcome of 10 to 11 on the roll that was interrupted. And that's really neat if you know this roll is one you want to see go forward, but you want to add a little drama to it, right? You can do this cut to commercial, give them a slightly different thing to add to, and then come back to it, which I think is amazing.
So if you're going to run these as one-shot games, you're going to want to lower the complexity to about 4 or 5. And then with about 30 minutes of gameplay left, the theorized move will be ready to be taken because they should have gathered 10 or so clues. If they can put all of those together, they're rolling the dice, adding 10, and then subtracting 4 or 5. Very likely to get at least a partial success. For campaigns, however, a major keeper element is tracking and showing the slow reveal of the dark conspiracy. So those clues are tracked on a special sheet of paper as the layers of this conspiracy are slowly uncovered.
You get lots of neat handouts, example adventures, which are 2 pages long. 1 page is preventing the mystery, the moments, and the suspects. The second has locations, clues, and void clues. And once you see this, you realize, oh, okay, this is, it's like having a menu or having a recipe list, but we don't know what's being cooked, right? Other than the starting premise and so on. And so that's great. Like you're just playing with these elements, and the players will add to it and weave it all together, which is really fun.
Yeah. If you want to get better at sort of ad-libbing in any sort of role-playing game, this is a good middle step. And a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games are a good middle step because you do have to, on the fly, put these recipe elements together. Like Teos said, put the ingredients together. You know that there's a location that's the lighthouse, and you know there's a clue, a broken candlestick. And so, and then a list of suspects as well, or other NPCs like town officials. Town officials play a huge role in this game as the people who sort of are the barrier between those worlds. Right? This is the disgruntled sheriff who hates that the Mavens are solving mysteries in his town, but he's also protecting them from this darkness, from the greater threat. So these people who have power are constantly interrupting, but also acting as a protection between the darkness and the coziness.
Yeah.
But like I said, so you get the ingredients. So you need to put this suspect in this place with this clue to be interrogated by the Mavens. It's not all written out for you. You have to sort of make it up as you go. But it's a recipe. You do know what the ingredients are, and it is easier to manage those.
Yeah, and what's fun is that the players are going to discuss what they think is happening, which then you can take that list of clues and provide them other clues that can reinforce that, right? And help direct it a bit, right? Like, oh, okay, they think it's this kind of a thing. Well, they're looking for a murder weapon. Well, let's give them one, right? And they're looking for some sort of a journal. Well, here's something that's like a note, right? So use that.
Yeah. So when I played, it was a 2-hour introductory. We made characters that took about 20 minutes to make the characters. Then we played the mystery, which took a little over an hour. And then we had about 15 minutes of the theorize move, where we put all these clues together and made the final roll. And it worked really, really well
Mm.
for a 2 hour one shot at a convention. Uh, I think a few of the players were really butting up against the fact that we were making things up. And that goes back to our question in the first part of our show of, of the
Yeah.
proactive campaigns that let players add their details to it and add their goals to it. But once I think we got those players to break out of the mold of waiting to hear what the answer is rather than creating the answer,
Hmm.
I think it went much more smoothly. And I would definitely suggest even if you don't play the game, but you are want to be a game designer or want to be a game master, buy and read this game. And if you do get a chance to play it, I strongly suggest you do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's on my list of games I want to play for sure. It's neat, and I very clever premise. I love the idea that it uses elderly women as the heroes, and in such a good
Mhm.
setting that makes that really come together. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's also a good introduction to Powered by the Apocalypse games in general and how moves are used to enhance and structure play
Mm.
to be the things that the players know that they need to do, but also to let help people break free of the rules and just have the dialogue and the role playing take its course until a move is triggered by the action and the narrative that's playing out. And with that, I will say thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed our quick review of Brindlewood Bay. I hope you enjoyed the show as a whole. There are people out there who enjoy it so much that they go to us via our Patreon and support us in that way. And for those people, we give you so, so, so many thanks. If you would like to join those wonderful folks that help us via our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/mastering D&D. You can become a Master of Dungeon supporter. We thank everyone who's done that. You can become a Master of Realm supporter who get a shout out in our show notes. Or you can become a Master of the Multiverse. And those brave, brave few, get their name mangled by me in real time, like Agile Monk of Fantasy Companion Workshops, Heath Ammon of The Monsters Know What They're Doing, Lou Anders of Lazy Wolf Studios, Craig Bailey, Rudy Chainsaw Basso, Dave Bastiensen, Derek the Bearded GM, Steve Bissonette, Merrick Blackman, Bosjen from Duality Press, Calvin Bridges of Alos, Brobo Ballin, Kevin Criswell, Dead Inertia DM, Evil John, Evan at Nimbleco, Will Doyle, Andy Edmonds at nerdronomicon.com, James Fisher, Vidwalcles G, Scott Fitzgerald Gray at Insane Angel Studios, Ben Heisler, Ben Heisler and Paige Lightman, Sean Hurst, Hyperlexic, the Jaunty Mantis TTRPG Podcast, Mark and Mary's Gaming Compound, The Mighty Jerd, JR of the Twilight Perspective, JT Evans, Brian King, Jim Klingler, Gail Kurmandy, Chad Lench, Paul Mata, The Mathemagician, Jaron from Mathis Arcanum, Eric Mengi, Anna B. Meyer of Fantasy Cartography, Trey McLemore, John Mickey, Sean Molly, Falcon Neal, Tom Nelson of the Deck of Player Safety, DT Norris of DT and Dragons, Phil Work from the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, which is 45 days away, Philip and Lindsay, Frog Prince at Tentacle Squelching Wetly, Post Fiction RPG Audio, Ricardo Who Might Adventure, Robert Pasley, Vladimir Prunner from Croatia, Ozymandias Rex, Runner Rick, Chance Russo at Drago Russo, Andy Shockney, Krishna Siamosa, Tim Smith, Spark from Dunner Games, Jeff Stevens at jeffstevensgames.com, Josh and Lee Wanika of the Tabletop Journeys podcast, Talis the Stormlord, Jeremy Talaman from the D&D and TV podcast, Tres, Ryan Truk, Joe Tyler, Marcelo de Velasquez, the Valiant DM, James Walton, Graham Ward, Jason Ward from Accidental Cyclops Games, Javier Wozniak, Waterford Wizard, Chris Webster, Zach Types, and Walt Winfrey. Thank you all for supporting us. If you can't support our Patreon, we understand. You can help us out by leaving a review wherever you listen to this show or by going to YouTube. That's youtube.com at Mastering Dungeons and leave us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Teos, what you been up to?
I have a video out that is all about trying to recreate the game hole sessions that I did on Trap Design. So that's today's video.
Mhm.
You can find that and enjoy it. And where do we find you, Shawn?
You can find me on all the socials at Shawn Merwin. You can also follow the podcast at Mastering D&D on those socials. Again, you can find us on Patreon. You can leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or you can email us at masteringdnd@gmail.com. We have solved the cozy mystery of the cosmic void. So, what should we do now?
Hmm, Well, I'm going to pick my prettiest dress and go out for a stroll.
Mhm. And I am going to do my B.A. Baracus move of getting out of physical danger because the A team was definitely an 80s show.
Oh, that's going to wreck your dress, dearie.
Yes, indeed.